Am I a stereotype? Am I just another kid entranced by technology and oblivious to all else? Or is that just what society expects of me? The thing is, as a teenager, I've been told that my generation has the future in our hands, and simultaneously that we are unfocused, lazy, and immoral. I've struggled with that contradiction a lot as I navigate my way through the purgatory that is adolescence. I grew up believing in myself. A younger Ziad would have stood before you today and asserted that he would be the next president of the United States of America, would change the world, and was good enough. But that is not the Ziad you see before you, and it begs the question, why not? It goes back to the idea of what it means to be a teenager and the stereotype of it, what it means to be a so-called millennial, and what it means to be connected to the world through the increasingly complicated medium of technology. It comes down to the fact that I've been belittled enough times through those stereotypes that sometimes I start to believe them. I'm a 16-year-old Muslim American Bangladeshi teenager, and I've been labeled enough times to be considered a GMO. And the thing is, that's true for almost any teenager. We live in a world where we are suffocated by societal expectations. Our childhood was, get dressed, eat your breakfast, go to school, play, have fun. Our teenage years are, choke back the tears, laugh at the right times, achieve excellence in all areas of academics, perform on the field, sexualize yourself and maintain your modesty, flirt, but not too much, think but don't challenge, pray, but don't be religious, be yourself, but conform to every label that this earth can conjure upon your existence. I sleep less than 5 hours a night. I do more extracurriculars than I can count on my hands, and Lord knows I'm not equipped to do arithmetic without a calculator. I feel as if my life is spinning faster than the free fall of the earth around the sun. But yet I stand here before you believing that I do too much and not enough all at once. I think I believe that because I've been told too many times that I need to focus on my studies now, and my time to be somebody will be later. I believe that because in one sentence, I've been told that I need to get out more, and that these 4 years will define the rest of my life. I believe that because my efficacy is continually scrutinized by those who use ageist attitudes to demean my passion. The stereotypes have clouded my judgment of myself, my peers, and society for far too long. And I've gotten to a place in my life where I'm ready to unapologetically declare that nobody has the right to tell me I cannot do something simply because of my age. The idea that the number of years I've lived on this earth somehow makes me inherently lesser than is inherently ludicrous. These stereotypes haven't just clouded my judgment, though. They're pervasive throughout global culture. The language used to describe my generation has created a psyche amongst a lot of youth that has been extremely detrimental. If you log onto any social media platform, you will see kids with in-depth, formulated, and educated opinions on all the world's greatest problems. But at school, we are told its conversations are for adults. And at home, we are shunned to the basement, while our parents engage in political discourse over wine and cheese. This continued belittlement of teenage intellectual thought has led to a mindset amongst a lot of youth that is about parties, relationships, and grades. But just like all human beings, we are multifaceted and cannot continue to be put into this unfair box. We have voices, and I've personally seen the good positivity and power they can inspire. I would now like to offer 3 stories that I think demonstrate this positivity perfectly. The first is of the pen, the second is of locks, and the third is of the mirror. I think this first story is one that many of you might be familiar with, but one that never ceases to amaze me. On October 9th of 2012, a girl boarded her school bus in the Swat Valley of Pakistan, and was met by bullets to her face at the hands of the Taliban. That girl is Malala Yousafzai. Born into a household that valued her education, she began to speak out as early as at the age of 12, asserting that the Taliban had no right to take her right of education away from her. She began to blog anonymously for BBC Urdu, chronicling the atrocities committed by the Taliban, including the closing of her very school in 2009 and the subsequent bombings of over 100 girls' schools. The schools eventually reopened and the blog ended. Her activism was only starting. After the New York Times released a documentary about her, she began to receive attention from international media, winning a host of extremely prestigious awards. She continued to speak out despite the fact that it made her life in danger. Malala was shot in the face on that fateful day because of the power of her activism. And after a long medical rehabilitation process, she continued to trailblaze in a truly unprecedented way, bringing her before the United Nations to state that, I am not against anyone. Neither am I here in terms of personal revenge against the Taliban or any terrorist group. I am here to stand up for the right of education for every child. I want education for the sons and daughters of the Taliban and any other terrorist or extremist group. At the age of 17, Malala became the youngest Nobel laureate, winning the 2014 Nobel Peace Prize. Malala and her pen are heroes that demonstrate the efficacy one can have irrespective of one's age. Hashtag I am Malala has been shared over 1 million times on social media. Her story has largely been shared as a result of teenagers being moved by her story and uplifting her narrative using their clout on social media. A study by Beaval reports that 74% of Twitter users are between the age of 15 and 25. Malala is emblematic of the efficacy a teenager can have, and her rise to prominence is indicative of the power teenagers wield with the hashtag in our arsenal. The second story I would now like to share is one that some of you might be familiar with, and it is of locks. Last spring, a versatile, accomplished, and talented teenager walked the Oscar red carpet, sporting a new hairstyle, gorgeous brown locks. Her fans, social media, and many gushed over the way her beautiful hair complemented her white gown. However, Juliana Rancic, who was then part of E's Fashion Police, wasn't so kind, stating that Zendaya's locks made her feel like Zendaya smelled like weed. Zendaya responded eloquently with a statement attached to a tweet that reads, "There is a fine line between what is funny and disrespectful. Someone said something about my hair at the Oscars that left me in awe, not because I was relishing in rave outfit reviews, but because I was hit with pure disrespect and ignorant slurs. To say that an 18-year-old woman with locks must smell like patchouli oil or weed is not only a large stereotype, but also outrageously offensive. I don't usually feel the need to respond to negative things, but certain remarks cannot go unchecked." She then continued by declaring that many of her family members, accomplished individuals, and historical figures all have locks in common, none of which smell like marijuana. She concluded by saying, "There is already a harsh criticism of African American hair in society without the help of ignorant individuals who choose to judge people based on the curl of their hair. My wearing of hair in locks at the Oscars was to showcase them in a positive light and to remind people of color that our hair is good enough. To me, locks are a symbol of strength and beauty, almost like a lion's mane." Finishing by suggesting that people not judge so quickly. Her words have been shared over 80,000 times, drawing widespread attention and inspiring pride, awe, and support of many. She demonstrated to the world the beauty of black culture and that racist ignorance cannot go unchallenged. She flawlessly demonstrated that she did not have to fit a stereotype to be perceived, seem, or feel beautiful. She has furthered that same commitment to social justice through recently speaking out on the difference between cultural appropriation and appreciation, and famously recently calling out Modelized magazine for publishing a retouched image of her with a post on Instagram that reads, "This is what makes women feel self-conscious, that create the unrealistic ideals of beauty that we have. Anyone who knows me knows that I stand for honest and pure self-love." Modelized magazine then took down the retouched image and replaced it with the original. Her bravery has transformed public perception, discourse, and activism in a truly positive way. Zendaya is only 19 years old, but the change that she has been able to impact on society is truly remarkable. She has proven the power one can have by using social media to advance the cause of justice. She has over 15 million followers on Instagram and over 6 million followers on Twitter, many of which are teenagers, and she used that for positivity. A study by the Pew Research Center found that 71% of teenagers are active on more than one social media site. And Zendaya influentially capitalized on that fact to make this world a better place. The last story I will now share is one that isn't as global in its impact, nor is it one that many of you will be familiar with, but it's one that definitely hits close to home. I will now share my story. My name is Ziad Ahmed, and I stand before you today because of my passion for social justice. At 14 years old, moved by the injustice I saw around me, I founded an organization for teens called Redefy, with our mission being to defy stereotypes, redefine perspectives positively, embrace acceptance and tolerance, and to create an active community. My activism is rooted in my belief that all injustices are one injustice. And I advocate for equality because I recognize the fact that we cannot selectively advocate for equality because by definition it is for all. Far too many people are being marginalized, belittled, and ostracized. I use my voice to advance the cause of justice, whether it be in speeches like this, on Twitter, or at school. I do not believe I am limited by my age in any way, shape, or form, and I am tired of the perception that my activism, political engagement, or social change is for later. Redefy has grown to a team of nearly 150 students from 10 different countries, to amass over 2,000 likes on Facebook and nearly 40,000 hits on our website. Our work has been commended by PBS, MTV, and even President Barack Obama personally last summer. In the face of malicious bigotry, hateful ignorance, and heartbreaking prejudice, I've questioned my legitimacy, efficacy, and integrity. But when I look in the mirror, I am proud of how far I've come and the change that I've been able to influence. When I look in the mirror, I pray that people see me not for my pigment, my body type, or any of my arbitrary idiosyncrasies, but for who I am. And I pray that I can be part of the solution that ensures that reality for all. I would be foolish to believe that Redefy's success is all thanks to me, or that my work is remotely over. So, I aspire to be better, to think smarter, to dream bigger, to advocate louder. Because of the people I've met, the stories I've been moved by, because of the role models I have, because of the support I've been blessed to receive, because of the reality I've chosen to confront. I sat at a table across from the President of the United States of America, Barack Obama, for nearly 2 hours and discussed world affairs ranging from education to discrimination to foreign policy. I had the opportunity for him to validate my existence by telling me he was proud of me in a speech with chilling genuineness. I wish every day that every person, every teenager could experience that same validation. I am that much more motivated to pursue my journey of activism as a result of me never having dreamt that Redefy would take me anywhere, let alone lead me to sit at that table. But I am here today to tell you that it can be you. That it can happen, it happened to me, and I am so confident that if everyone in this room takes the time to initiate a positive change in this world, that all of you will experience a moment of validation that precious. I want to say though that it's hard. I've lost friends, I've been called names, I've had to miss out on all, I've sacrificed. It's not easy to oppose the status quo, but it's essential to shift the paradigms of society. I think it's often easy to forget that today's world issues affect us, teenagers, as much as anyone. But more than that, it's hard to remember that not only do they affect us as much as anyone, but that we can have as much efficacy in solving them as much as anyone. In so many different meaningful ways, whether it be globally or locally. Our time can be college or adulthood, but it doesn't have to be. Poverty, racism, discrimination, homophobia, disease, all of our world's greatest problems are happening now. And we can act now and make a real difference. Look at Zendaya, Malala, or even me. And don't view us as the exception, but see yourself. Our age does not limit our activism. We have the hashtag. our perspectives, and unique skills that position us to influence global change and to not only sit at the table, but to be at the head. I now want to leave you with a poem that I wrote in August of 2014 that I think perfectly sums up a lot of the issues I've talked about today. We used to play that game, Simon Says. The leader tells you what to do, and you imitate exactly, or you are out. Simon says, Simon says, Simon says. The words almost never end. The name of the game was to copy, to conform to instruction, because originality was a childhood felony. Society says, and if we don't follow, are we out? No, because life is not a game, and despite what some might say, no one is out. But society says, and we follow, or we feel that we are out. Winning has so quickly become equated with the idea of imitating the best, instead of being the best, being yourself. Maybe that ironic foreshadowing of the silly game is the lesson that we're instructed to teach our kids by the force that is society. Maybe we've systematically taught that you do not oppose what Simon says, for what society says goes. Maybe that is our fatal flaw, for what society says doesn't just go. Maybe what we say goes, who we are goes. We wanted so much to win, to stay in that stupid little game. Because society says, society says, society screams. But I say no. I never liked Simon anyway.